Your event's coming up.
It is.
In the state of Florida. Great state of Florida. Yeah. The speakers you have lined up right now are Donald Trump, Tucker Carlson, Charlie Kirk, yourself, Dan Bongino, Bannon Jr., Hawley, J.D. Vance, Schmidt, Asa Hutchinson, Gates, Roger Stone, Boebert, you got Posobiec, Benny Johnson, Vivek Ramaswamy, Bernie Moreno, Senator Ted Cruz, Mayor Suarez. I can go on and on and on and on with the names that you have going on. There's another event going on in Iowa, and it's hosted by a company called The Blaze. I don't know if you recognize them or not. They have a guy named Tucker Carlson going there as well, and another guy named Vivek, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley. They have Mike Pence, also Asa, and a few other people. But they have Ron DeSantis going to his event. But why didn't you invite the governor to your event in Florida?
No, we invited everyone.
Okay.
Yeah, just for the record. And every single candidate got an invite. In fact, we actively were trying to get the governor to come. And
what was the reason for him? Because
he declined.
Why would he decline to a Florida event?
No, it's perplexing, Patrick. I mean, I'm a big fan of the governor's.
Yeah.
I consider him a friend. I think he's running a terrible presidential campaign. And we're going to have 6,000 people there. But it's not just 6,000 people. We're going to have 500 donors. We are going to have 300 pastors. We're having 250 social media influencers that generate millions of eyeballs. We have over 2,000 of what we consider super activists. These are people that are full-time in politics. Local precinct committee members, state party chairmen. These are people that donate, show up to events. And so it's confusing why Governor DeSantis in his home state would not attend. He's going to be in the state, according to his public schedule, in Tallahassee. He could easily come down on Sunday, a day that Trump is not speaking. I think it's a huge missed opportunity. Hopefully he fixes his error. We did it. I personally invited Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Tim Scott. You know, obviously I'm a pro-Trump guy. As an organization, though, we wanted to create a venue and a format to talk to the grassroots. As you could tell, we have Governor Asa Hutchinson, who is like the polar opposite of where I am philosophically. Yeah. But we're trying to be honest brokers. Okay, you have 6,000 people. You want to be the president of the United States. Come make your case. I will insist the audience is respectful and that they allow you to have a fair hearing. But I'm disappointed. Governor DeSantis, I don't want to read too much into it. I don't want to speculate, but I could tell you the response from the grassroots, the people that are attending our event, they're confused, they're upset, and they say, oh, this is just more of the same. Governor DeSantis is making time for a lot of fundraisers, and it's disappointing he will not come. This is the largest grassroots event of the summer. Nothing comes even close. As far as numbers, capacity, influence, Patrick, we have 155 credentialed media coming. I mean, you turn over a rock, there's a New York Times reporter, that's going to be coming to our event. Not just that, CBS, ABC, NBC. And what is the current narrative? The current narrative is actually true that DeSantis is failing to challenge Trump. That's 100% true. You can see it in the grassroots, you can see it in the audience, you can see it in polling. And so why wouldn't you then go into the arena and address the audience that has doubts about you? It's some people are calling it insulting. It's hard to disagree with that. I don't consider it a personal insult. It's politics. You make your own calculation. I've known the governor for 6 years now, but this is a mistake.
For what it's worth, last time you were here, we did a podcast a couple months ago. I don't know when it was, 4 months ago, 3 months ago. And I asked you a question about both candidates, Trump and DeSantis. You were very respectful of both. You said you're friends of both. You were very diplomatic. You were not taking a side or the other. You were saying he should run. You said this is something he ought to do. You have to get in the ring. Maybe it's going to be tough, but this is how we learn. So you were very much of someone who defended him.
Yes.
When I was challenging him. But here's a question for you. So for me, when I'm talking to all the different camps, I have a very easy time getting a text back, a call back, a message back from every camp except for one camp, and that's the DeSantis camp. How much of this, because this is your world. So for me, all I know is how to be a CEO. And as a CEO of a company, if one of my guys you reach out to, he's probably asking me, so the pace he gets back to you, it's really my pace, right? The speed of the leader determines the speed of the pack,
100%.
right? So how much of this is he's just got a bad marketing team, and how much of it is him just being slow to get back because he thinks his strategy is, I'm above it all. I don't need to be there. I don't need to experience this. I'm going to do whatever I want to do, and I'm still going to win.
Yeah, and that's a mistake to think that way. So let me just kind of tell you, one phone call to President Trump, he's like, I'm all in. I'm there. Let me know.
Right.
He is earning the front-runner status right now. There is zero entitlement on behalf of Donald Trump. I had dinner with him a week and a half ago. We have a very good relationship. I think the world of him. He was a great president. Don't agree with him on all the stuff he did, especially with Fauci and the vaccine. Whatever. He was a great president. I'm 100% behind him. And I am really thrilled with how he's trying to earn the nomination. Doing events, doing rallies, doing interviews. Vivek Ramaswamy, to his great credit, text message in 5 minutes. Charlie, I'll be there. It is very difficult to get communication from Governor DeSantis' team. I completely agree. I don't know if that's the pace of the executive, the CEO. I don't know if it's a culture around there, but I'm telling you right now, he's on pace to finish third or fourth in this primary. Vivek Ramaswamy is on pace to be the second vote getter in this nomination.
That's wild.
So so Charles, you would say like right now there's no like even if right now DeSantis wakes up and goes, guys, whoever's in charge out, new team, and he's done.
It's somewhat fixable. I'm not saying it's done. I'm not saying that, but he's trending. The trajectory is really poor for him. He's coming across as if he feels like he's entitled. He's engaging in a policy debate where the Republican base does not want a policy debate right now. They want who is going to go in with a spine and honestly the balls to go into D.C. and fight against this uniparty regime. It's a lot more ethos and pathos than it is logos. So he's entering this like it's a Yale policy debate. Like, oh, high taxes, low taxes. He's using like really weird, abstract academic terms that I can resonate with, which is we're going to securitize the border. Like, yeah, nobody talks like that, okay? How about Donald Trump says, I'm going to build a wall and I'm going to deport the enemies. Like, that resonates. But more than that, Donald Trump is an alpha beast. And people want that in this hyper-feminine postmodern culture we're living in. And so they look at him, and yeah, he's willing to go to CNN with Caitlin Collins and just take questions and like, you're a liar and you're a fraud and you're a fake. And so Trump's going to come to our event, and he's going to be wearing a big red tie and talk for an hour and a half. And you look at him and you have an attachment to him because like that guy's going to be able to go toe-to-toe with Xi Jinping, right? He's going to be able to, whatever world leader you want, okay? And so then there's this attachment where he almost creates this like mythological type of archetype where young people, all people see it and they say that guy has the status, the attitude, the vibe, and the energy. Governor DeSantis is like, yeah, I did great in Florida, now elect me as president. And people are like, no, I want someone who can go into the UFC ring and dethrone the alpha. And until you can go into the arena and out-Trump Trump, you're going to finish second, third, fourth, or fifth. This is not a policy debate.
You know, it's interesting you're saying that. But by the way, just a quick question. Are you also inviting RFK? RFK?
No, we did. We did.
So he's not available.
Yeah, and he texted me back. He says, Charlie, I'm trying to win a Democrat primary.
That's hilarious.
And I said, dude, I'm a big fan of yours. By the way, I think he's awesome. And I disagree with him, obviously, on so many. I always have to disclaim this because people say, oh, he's the worst on these 10 things. Yeah, okay, great. The stuff he talks about with Fauci, the toxins in our food, in our air and water, and how the pharmaceutical companies are poisoning us, love it.
I think that's a mistake on his end to not come
I
to your
totally
event.
agree.
Let me tell you why. I'll give you my, because you said you're obviously biased on why. Let me say why I would say it. Because I actually think, if he goes to that event, he's going to get a different response than he thinks he's going to get. I think they're going to go crazy for him.
They would go wild
for him because he is the community that can't stand censorship. They're going to love him. The community that couldn't stand the vaccine, even some of the people that were like, hey, Trump may be the vaccine, RFK's not the vaccine guy. They're going to be for RFK. And who knows if it comes down to pushing the idea of getting a debate, if Biden drops out, you're going to want the other side to want you to win as a Democrat to see. I don't know. I think it's a mistake. I think he should. If there's one event he needs to be at, I think he needs to be at your event. It's funny he said no to it.
I pestered him about it. We were texting, and he was sweet about it. He wasn't a jerk, right? But he's like, I'm trying to win a Democrat primary.
He's very sweet, yeah.
And all that. And he's come on my program before on our podcast. People can look it up. It was a really robust and great conversation. Trying to get him back on. I really like RFK Jr. because he's willing to call out the security state and the administrative state, this fourth branch of government, which I believe is the existential threat to our freedom and liberty and the promise of self-government that our founders laid out in the Constitution. He gets it. He even makes claims that his uncle and his father were killed by his uncle and his father he alludes to, but his uncle in particular. I totally sympathize with that sentiment. Sorry.
No, from a logistical standpoint, I don't want. You mentioned this kind of just in passing, you're like, yeah, I'm texting JFK. So yeah, I'm texting Trump.
I'm not texting JFK.
I'm sorry, RFK. All right, that'd be pretty impressive.
Don't get the. Some people think he's still alive.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, exactly.
The flat Earth community.
Yeah.
Here's my question: you're actually texting RFK?
Yeah.
Are you actually texting Trump?
No, I call.
Okay, but you call him. Mm-hmm. Picks up the phone.
Yeah, like second or third ring.
How many other candidates are you calling and or texting directly?
Vivek, Nikki Haley, I text with. I've liked Nikki for years, even though she's totally wrong on Ukraine, and has really become more neoliberal and stuff. Probably most of the field.
So to be clear, you're calling Trump. He's picking up. Boom.
Yeah, second or third.
What about DeSantis?
No, I can't reach him.
So hold on, let me get this straight. You can call Donald Trump. He picks up the phone, speaks with you. And you can't even reach Governor DeSantis?
I think Patrick would agree with what I'm saying here because it's consistent with a reputation he has. But I will say this. Trump has people have all negative stuff about Trump. Here's what I love about him is he is so reachable, so accessible, so communicative. The guy works his tail off. Like even when he was
is shocking.
He was president. Like once I needed to reach him on something and he was in Tokyo or something negotiating and he takes the call. And he's like, "Charlie, I'm really busy. What's up?" And it's like, that's who he is.
I get him putting you on speaker. Charlie, I'm out here in Tokyo.
But he cares about people. He cares about his relationships. Yeah. He's always been there for me. And again, some people have stopped giving money to Turning Point because they say, oh, you're too close to Trump and all this. I say, okay, whatever, we're going to be fine. But honestly, I have a deep sense of loyalty and appreciation for a man who took a 24, 25-year-old seriously enough to not just take my call, bring him to the Oval Office, and he is more communicative with me than not just DeSantis, but most senators that I deal with.
Look, so I have worked with a lot of sales leaders, and I know this is going to be a random analogy, but you'll see where this goes. So we have 45,000 insurance agents, 15,000 active agents. And all the complaints will come to me from their sales leaders they work with. And I'll see sales leaders, they develop other leaders that become very successful. This guy becomes guys, what's going on here?
No, he's sweating.
No, it's hot.
What do you want to do?
No, I'm fine.
Okay, so just text them, tell them you got AC. We'll turn on the AC. You guys keep talking. We're doing a podcast. So this sales leader comes in and they'll say, I can never get a hold of XYZ. I can never get a hold of him. Pat, I got an easier time getting a hold of you as a CEO than I got to get a hold of XYZ. And then you look at the results, they don't duplicate anybody. They don't develop any leaders. And I want to ask them, why don't you pick up the phone? Wow, that guy hasn't earned the right to earn my time yet. I said, buddy, it's the other way around. Like, you got to earn everyone's vote. You got to earn their vote for them to say, I want to work with you. I think politics is the same way, where you have to go earn the vote of the person. In capitalism, we vote with what? With, I'm going to choose to spend to buy this coffee from Starbucks over I'm going to buy this coffee from Coffee Bean. No problem. That's a form of voting, right?
You vote with your pocketbook.
But Schultz has got to go earn that. And Schultz, if
DeSantis, you mean?
No. Schultz is Starbucks.
Oh, gotcha.
Schultz has got to go earn that.
Gotcha.
So Schultz will go and sit there at a hearing, and they're bashing him, trashing him, and then he says, look, I think you just got a problem with me being a billionaire.
Yeah.
I started off with nothing. I'm not going to be apologizing for being a billionaire. And you know what you say? Politically, you don't agree with Schultz. But you know what you do agree? You agree with brass balls to sit there and defend yourself.
And that's a tough business, by the way.
That's a very tough business.
It's a labor-intensive, low-margin, high-volume business.
And you're dealing with $15, $20 an hour employees.
And tons of competitors, by the way. And he basically turned a billion-dollar brand from what used to be considered to be just a commodity. I got get coffee. What do you need?
Yeah.
He created a whole experience. I have a ton of respect for what Schultz has built.
It's very, very, and for you to have grown your business to where it's at, you know how hard it is to kind of get it. So for me, the biggest challenge with DeSantis, if you go on their policy, and if we were to take all the candidates and on 20 different policies, let's just say, okay, and you would say, which one of them do you agree with most on policies? DeSantis is probably going to be up there. Of
course.
But there's one big factor there. You got to have the audacity to go out there and sit with people. If you don't, how can the people that you want to vote for you feel confident knowing you're going to go sit with the enemy and people who are really scary, who can't stand you? And the more and more you take this approach, the more you come across as hate to say this, you come across as establishment. You come across as I'm too good. You're not on my level. I know what's good for you.
And you nailed it. You said he like the entitled. Like, he did such a great job with COVID. He's that employee, Pat, that thinks his resume is so awesome he doesn't have to interview. He's just like, here, take that.
I totally agree. My favorite word in the English language is earn. I think our entire economic system needs to be based on earning.
Love that.
And I think our politics need to be based on earning. And to Donald Trump's credit, he wants to earn this nomination. He's acting as if it's an open field. He's running to win. Ron DeSantis is not exhibiting the behavior, the language, or even the flexibility. You know this in business, right, Patrick? If you're not doing well, then fix something. Change a message. Change your approach. Don't keep on doing what doesn't work. I mean, it's...
That is the definition of insane.
That is the definition of insane, and it doesn't make any sense. And so here's what I'll kind of say about Trump, which is people grew an attachment with him throughout him literally being president. So how does one beat Trump in a primary? Not that I'm like one to give advice. Well, I don't know. You have to talk to the new Republican Party that, guess what, doesn't want us to be involved in Ukraine, doesn't want open borders, doesn't want limitless trade deals. And Patrick, you hit it perfectly. If you understand the Republican base, which I believe that I understand it better than most, our podcast is the most, by proportion, conservative Republican podcast out there. Democrats really don't listen to our show, and that I wish they would, but it's this. They are a scorned community. How many times, from Mitt Romney to Paul Ryan to Mitch McConnell, have they heard the same tired talking points? You see them go to D.C. and let them down. So they're hyper paranoid that somebody is going to swoop in and be purchased by the war lobby, the pharmaceutical lobby, and that's Trump's appeal. Trump's appeal, the more he's indicted, the more he's attacked, they say at least he's not Paul Ryan.
Yeah. And the more and more we talk about this, unfortunately, it's not changing. It's not like you know how sometimes Stephen A. Smith will say something and let's just say the Lakers will make an adjustment. You're like, I don't know if it was because of Stephen A. Smith, but they made an adjustment. Or like a coach who's a commentator will say something, or Shaq will say, I'm going to make this adjustment if I was a center. And you're like, okay, they kind of listen to what Shaq said or Kenny Smith said. Everybody is saying this. That camp has to listen. But there's something I want to talk about real quick here before we get into the next topics. Earlier this week, the Bank for International Settlement released its 2022 survey on central bank digital currency, CBDC. The results showed 93% of central banks are working on a CBDC. Let me say this again. 93% of central banks, 18% of them said they're likely to use a CBDC in the near future. The jurisdiction of these banks represents 82% of the world's population and 94% of global economic output. Before we get into the story, the one thing that everybody has to know where I stand, this is why I own a lot of gold. And not only physical gold, I have it in funds, but I own a lot of gold. So American Hartford Gold will ship. This is why we chose to team up with our new sponsor, American Hartford Gold. We went through this. This has been a 6-month process, but we finally chose to work with these guys. American Hartford Gold will ship physical gold and silver directly to your door, or they can set you up on a gold IRA. If you have a retirement fund that you cannot afford to lose, now's the time to call American Hartford Gold, a precious metal dealer you can trust. They'll show you how to protect your savings and retirement accounts by diversifying your portfolio with physical gold and silver. They have the finest products, amazing customer service, and a buyback commitment. And they've earned a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from Better Business Bureau. Tell them I sent you, and they'll give you up to $5,000 of free silver on your first order. Click on the link below or call 866-939-6984. That's 866-939-6984, or text PBD to 65532. Again, 869-939-6984, or text PBD to 65532. You had a question for Charlie.
I did, and you actually said the word in here that I wanted to ask Charlie here. You said American Hartford Gold has earned a 5-star rating from thousands of reviews and an A+ from the Better Business Bureau. Not given, earned. Interesting. The question I have for you is back to our friend Ron DeSantis. Listen, it's no secret. There's 2 P's in politics. Well, that's the third P right there. Why people vote. It's pretty simple. It's policies or personality. I mean, that's basically what it boils down to. Yes. There's no doubt that DeSantis is a policy wonk. Even when we sat down with him that one time in that little room, it was actually kind of weird how he started the conversation. It was just like, all right, guys, here we go. So policy 1742 and 1970, we're like, can we get a what's up just to start?
Hi.
Hey, guys, how we all doing? Great, anything. So is it, you're saying that you're calling Trump, he's picking up while he's in Tokyo. but you can't even get a text back from DeSantis.
I want to be fair. I mean, DeSantis, if I work hard enough, I can get him on the phone. But it's not easy, and it's not immediate.
That's my question. You're calling Trump. He picks up.
Yes.
You have to work or earn the right for him to pick up.
Would be
scrap it, right?
Would be a good word.
And you talked about your texting RFK, Nikki Haley, whatever you said. How much is this just a personality flaw that he just is a mechanical policy guy? And doesn't have just the personality, the ability to be like, hey, what's up, Charlie? Yeah, I'm busy. Whatever it is, how much is it a personality flaw?
I don't know. Here's what I can say, though, is that in politics, there's kind of the macro, the 35,000 media narratives, right? And then there's what I call the whisper campaigns, which is kind of, hey, did you notice that whenever you're around that talk show host, they're kind of a jerk? And that stuff adds up over time. That's a slow build. You know that, right, Patrick? That's not the stuff that's going to get the Daily Beast article. It's not the stuff that's going to get the NBC. But if you do that in 500 events over a decade, that's all of a sudden a reputation starts to be developed. And then there's a truth. And Governor DeSantis did have a fair amount of articles back in February, March, or April about how he just doesn't like spending time around people. Right. Well, you're in the wrong business.
What?
Well, and just meaning like he's.
I remember this.
You know, you saw the same articles. I'm not being unfair.
By the way, just so you know, we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah, and that is 100% the reputation he has in a lot of grassroots circles. That it's super fast, super transactional. Now you contrast that, despite all the stereotypes. If Donald Trump walked into this room, he would make you feel like you are the only person on the planet.
Yeah, he does have that ability.
The focus, the intensity, and his first thing would not be, hey, let's talk about policy 821152.
Exactly.
You know what he'd be doing? He'd say, Patrick, you got some really beautiful women out there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are you running, a modeling agency or something? Right? You'd light
He'd
you
shake
up.
his arm and try to rip it off.
No, yeah, exactly. Like, get over here. You know. But by the way, if you'd have to be the most dominant in the room, right? So in that you'd have to understand the hierarchy. But how much is a personality flaw? I don't know. Here's what I could say, though, that if DeSantis is going to keep up this behavior, again, he will finish third or fourth behind Vivek.
Crazy.
By the way, here's a story from NBC, which maybe he actually needs to read. Ron DeSantis says he wouldn't be Trump's running mate. I'm not a number 2 guy, right? Okay. So you may say you're not a number 2 guy. I'll read the whole thing. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis firmly stated, I don't think so. I'm not a number 2 guy. When asked if he would be Donald Trump's running mate, citing his preference to stay as governor because the vice presidency doesn't really have any authority. DeSantis dismissed discussions about potential running mates, asserting it is a little bit of a presumptuous to be doing so at this stage. His focus remains on winning early primaries for his candidacy. Despite his decision, DeSantis pledged his support for eventual GOP nominee, even if it turns out to be Trump, acknowledging Trump's significant lead in the national survey with 51% national Republican primary vote, which is good to hear that. But here's the point. You know, sometimes, like, this happens in sports where you're the best high school ball player. And then you're like, dude, I'm a dog, you know, like, okay, great. Then you go to college, you're like, oh shit, I suck. Then your senior year, you're actually the best player on the team. Like, no, I'm making it. And you go to NBA, and you're like, you know what? I'm the best 6-man. Mm-hmm. I'm a good 6-man. I'm actually not who I thought I was. I'm Lamar Odom. I'm the 6th man of the year.
You're Lou Williams.
By the way, there is nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. You're a guy that comes and gets the job done. Or, here's the part, very interesting. Russell Westbrook, does he have a ring? No, he's not a number 1 guy. Chris Paul, does he have a ring? He's not a number 1 guy. Yeah. Paul George, does he have a ring? He's not a number 1 guy. You know what he said on his podcast? He says, I finally come to a conclusion to realize I will never win a championship as a number 1. And Paul George is a dog. Yeah. He's not a regular guy. So what does this mean? Here's what it means. There's 2 things with Governor DeSantis. I'll say this and I'll turn it over to you. Is one, sometimes you may be number 1 in policies. You may be number 1 in running a state. You may be number 1 in all that stuff, but you're not a number 1 marketer. Maybe the best thing he could do, and I'm telling you guys right now, the best thing he could do is if he can figure out a way to be around a guy who is possibly the greatest marketer, who won on TV, who won on politics, and who won in business, who won in real estate in New York where you're negotiating air. You go and spend 4 years under this guy, you know what you're going to learn after 4 years? Not policies. You're going to sit in the room just like everybody sizes each other up. They'll say, yeah, I'm better than him in that. I'm definitely better than him in that policy. He's wrong about that policy. That's not true. Oh, shit, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you can't do that, Ron. That's marketing. And to win at that level, you need that. What are your thoughts on that?
He believes he's better than Trump, though. He does not believe there's a lot to learn there.
That's very positive. Good for you, but the world has to believe that.
Well, but also, I mean, like you just said it best. I mean, you negotiate the air rights over Tiffany's. That's a skill set that is a lot different than navigating the all-red Florida legislature. Like a lot different, right? I mean, and so here's the other thing. In politics, you have to read the room. And so you know this in sales, right, Patrick? I mean, I'm blown away by what you do with PHP, all that, and I can't wait to come speak in August with you guys, is that when you teach salespeople, you let the customer talk first. Or else you're just, it would be like going to a bunch of Jewish rabbis, be like, yeah, I sell BLTs. Like, okay, they're not going to buy bacon from you, okay? It's against their deeply held beliefs. Yeah. It would have been helpful if you knew that they were, Orthodox Jewish rabbis before you open your mouth.
Not in the bacon business.
Yeah. So, but Ron DeSantis is going into the Republican base and not even first asking the question of what they want. Instead, he's like, let me tell you what you want. Okay, no. You're misreading the room. The Republican base right now is a base that wants a resurgence of economic nationalism. They want their country back. They're sick of this trans zealotry. More than anything else, though, they want a president who's a bulldog. They want a UFC fighter. They want someone to get into the ring, willing to bloody up the opposition and settle the score, literally, because they feel like they are being blitzkrieged and pummeled every single day. Now, to your point, Patrick, yes, if you're trying to create a roster to save Western civilization, someone's going to be Jordan. And until Jordan retires, yes, you need a Pippen, you need a Kukoc, you need a Kerr, and you need a Rodman. Where does DeSantis fall on all that? Probably like Steve Kerr, like role player.
Ooh,
but
yeah.
No, but like they don't win the fifth title without Steve Kerr. Like they just don't.
Steve Kerr was
shooting threes all day.
Was a fifth, sixth man.
Hold on a second.
Saying.
Yeah, he was a role player. I'm saying like right now in politics.
I'm with you.
But then Steve Kerr, when his number was called, Michael Jordan whispered in the huddle like, yo, Steve, I might come to you, right? Game 6, I believe. Boom, dishes to Steve Kerr, hits it with 7 seconds left, and they win the fifth title, right? That was necessary and proper, but he understood his role. And Steve Kerr said in The Last Dance, I always knew I was not going to be a one guy, so I had to scrap for my position. Now, you might say, oh, well, maybe Ron DeSantis is Pippen or Rodman. We can only play the metaphor out so far. But right now, Ron DeSantis is a governor of one state. He wants to be president of 50 and the leader of the free world. You're going up against Jordan, man. You're going up against a guy that has succeeded in everything he's done. And in my personal opinion, was not given a fair shake in the 2020 election. So it's unfair to say like, oh, we're necessarily going to lose. Like, come on, let's be honest. That election was a drive-by shooting of the U.S. Constitution, mail-in drop boxes, social media interference, the Twitter files, all that stuff, COVID, all that stuff, right? So the Republican base also believes, rightly, that Donald Trump has not had a fair shake at governance or re-election since the moment he won the 2016 election. And they're right. Spied on his campaign, Russia hoax, 2 impeachments, yeah.
Earlier you used the word scorned.
I used that word
You said they want a pit bull, they want a fighter.
Yes.
Explain, if you could, just extrapolate, why do they feel scorned metaphysically?
No,
not just...
This is a great question, right? I get this question asked by establishment donors, which I'm on good terms with, where they ask me like almost as if I'm some sort of like translator. Help me understand the deplorable people in Arkansas. Okay. They have shown up and voted. They show up to church, they raise their kids, they pay their taxes. They've done what they've been told to do, and they've lived largely virtuous, good lives for 40 years, and they've seen their country decline. But they've constantly elected Republicans to see their country collapse. And they've more specifically got behind smooth-talking, slick, well-funded Republicans, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, John Boehner, and many others that have told them, just give us political power and things are going to get better. And they do not see the border getting closed. They do not see the budget getting balanced. They do not see top priorities of ordinary, everyday Americans start to get accomplished. So they start to create a sense of scorn, paranoia, neuroticism, or just like understandable skepticism, which where I'm at, where the first instinct of a Republican-based voter is, I think you are lying to me until you prove me otherwise.
Charlie, I think what you're saying is paramount for people to understand and hear the words that you're actually saying, and not just like, oh, a talking point. It's super important that you're saying that. Bill Maher always says it's okay for you to hate Trump. You can't hate the people that voted for him.
100%.
These people, you have to understand their DNA. If they feel scorned, they don't care that he calls someone Little Marco or Low Energy Jet.
They kind of like it.
They feel fucking pissed and scorned.
And so, but let me just reemphasize this. They're not wrong. Like for 40 years, we've shipped our jobs overseas and we invade a country every 2 years. We're financing foreign thuggish governments in Ukraine with Zelensky while our own border continues to be wide open. We have 110,000 drug overdoses every single year. And I have to be lectured by the CIA and the FBI and the Uniparty that the Ukrainian government is my responsibility. Like, no, screw you. I don't care about Zelensky. I care about the 110,000 fellow Americans that are drug overdosing every single year. I care that middle-class wages are going down and that we have the most suicidal, drug-addicted, alcohol-addicted, depressed, and pornographic-addicted generation in history. And so Trump recalibrates everything and says, no. When the plane is going down, you put on your oxygen mask first, then you can go to the Somali immigrant and go put their oxygen mask on. Yeah. That is a very simple, prudent approach. The other politicians reject that philosophically.
By the way, this is one thing to keep in mind while all this stuff is going on. Just a few months ago, I don't know, maybe 8 months ago, everybody's like, well, Musk is for DeSantis. Rogan is for DeSantis. Ken Griffin from Citadel is for DeSantis. Mega donor Ken Griffin is evaluating the GOP primary field but remains silent on his contribution to pro-DeSantis entities. Like the Never Back Down Super PAC, Griffin has previously expressed support for DeSantis, who received $100 million from Griffin in 2022 midterms. DeSantis' campaign highlights his fundraising success with $150 million raised overall, including an $82.5 million transfer from a state-level political committee. So what happens when these bigger donors are pulling away?
Don't be surprised if one of two things happen. If they try to draft like a Glenn Youngkin into the race as kind of the counter to Trump, and or another one of these candidates kind of starts to get the anointing to go against Trump. Look, maybe Tim Scott is probably the next one. He doesn't have a snowball chance in hell to beat. I actually like Tim Scott. I think he's a pleasant person. He's been really sweet to me, and I just disagree with him on a lot of stuff, and he's not the fighter the base wants. But yeah, I hear this because I talk to a lot of these donors, and they know where I stand, but I also have a mission at Turning Point USA, an educational mission that is in wide agreement with a lot of donors, right? So I strike that balance, I think, pretty well. But Patrick, call after call I receive from people that are so upset with DeSantis and underwhelmed by how he's doing, and they are seeking other options. And because DeSantis was supposed to be the guy that could successfully challenge Trump, and that is not materializing. And by the way, time is running out.
Do you think it's too late?
No.
Do you think it's too late?
Well, who am I to give advice to, against Trump? Because everyone knows where my loyalties lie. But no, it's not too late. However, it's increasingly unlikely. It's a 99. If you were like the bookie, like to kind of do the odds, it's a 99% chance Trump wins the nomination. Absent something, a black swan event that we are not expecting, because the indictments are only helping. The more that stuff is in the news, Jack Smith might as well be the campaign chairman of the Donald J. Trump Super PAC. It only helps invigorate the Republican base to play into the core theme of Donald Trump, which is they need to take me out because I'm a threat to the system.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.